have some questions that I'm going to be answering. These are, some kind of observable nuances, some things that my viewers, my supporters are going through. So I did some research and I found some things from, on my own, as well as, had some people send me in some questions or things that they've been, dealing with. So just gonna mix it in. And I hope y'all really soak up this game. So the first thing is, why do I keep getting close to people who say all the right things but never follow through with their actions? Like, what am I not seeing? For one, you're relying too much on people's potential. You aren't analyzing what they're actually doing in real time. I think it's a very crucial thing when you start paying attention to people's actions and not their words, because their actions is a representation of their heart space. They can tell you whatever the fuck. They can hate you and lie to you, but they can't love you and not show that in no type of facet. If their heart is aligned with the situation, they're going to show it. They're going to act it out. And that's kind of just up to you to have a little bit of discernment. Being able to acknowledge when people may just be love bombing you, and being able to acknowledge when you're being gaslit, being able to acknowledge when somebody is overcompensating in a certain area to make up for their lack of ability in another area, right? If somebody's not treating you right, if they don't have good communication, if they're just not a good person, they probably just gonna start doing a whole bunch of unnecessary things to make you forget how much of a fucked up person they are. It really just comes with discernment, and then holding people accountable. If they start getting into this headspace where they're like, oh, I'm sorry, it was a mistake, I didn't know, you're going to completely just start feeling bad about yourself and your decision making, and you're going to allow them to keep doing things that you know damn well isn't beneficial, but your good heart is prohibiting you from doing anything different. Man, having a good heart is like crazy. It can put you in some very crazy predicaments. Now, the next question is, how do I stop confusing trauma bonding with real love? They feel the same in the moment, and it's messing up my judgment. Well, for one, when you're trauma bonding with somebody, you typically are creating an attachment because of the trauma, not because you guys understand each other, not because you guys want to pour into love into each other and heal the situation. You're talking to them and getting hella deep with this person solely off the fact that they went through something similar. Somebody who's actually trying to heal that connection would see what you went through and probably be like, I understand, or maybe I don't understand, but I sympathize with it. So since that's the perspective that I have, I'm able to pour the love into you that you actually need. I'm able to pour an adequate amount of love into you. But if you're just trauma bonding, there's no love being poured into anybody. You guys are just sitting there explaining what you guys been through, and then since that person's went through something similar to you, you feel a sense of home, you feel a sense of comfort because you don't feel alone no more. Trauma bonding is, we only do that when we feel alone, when we feel like our struggles then isolated us to the point where we need to surround ourselves with other people who have also been through it, versus I need to surround myself around people who just simply sympathize with the situation a little bit and could pour the love into me that I need. They don't even need to go through the trauma or the same things that we went through. You get what I'm saying? It's like this switch of perspective, because I truthfully do believe, especially in a relationship, you're going to trauma bond at some point. There's no way in hell you're going to be in a relationship and not trauma bond. It's just a natural human dynamic. But the important thing is, if you're going to be in a vulnerable space like that where you are trauma bonding, you need to be able to heal from it. You need to be able to take yourself out of that pain and pour it, and then turn on your nurturing attributes, turn on your caring, your loving, your respectful attributes, so you can move forward from it. Don't ever just start trauma bonding then sit in the trauma bond. If you're going to trauma bond with somebody, at least have a solution on the back end. Okay, we've talked about it, we went through this, we addressed this. Now what can we do to make sure this doesn't happen again, or to minimize the possibility of it happening again? Completely different. And so now question number 3 is, why do I feel guilty for wanting space even when I know I need to stay emotionally stable? That's because you're probably people pleasing. And it's kind of crazy. That's actually something that I've been dealing with a lot recently, right? When you get into a space where you have to think for yourself and make decisions for yourself, If you were in a predicament where you weren't doing that beforehand, let's say you were people pleasing, people were asking you for things and it was just always a yes. You were always the go-to. You were always, the right hand woman or man for something. You feel me? The moment you try to separate yourself from that, people might start looking at you crazy. People might calling you selfish. They're gonna start calling you self-centered. They're gonna start calling you all these different type of things. But truthfully speaking, nobody knows the truth besides you and God. If you truly stepped away from a situation to better yourself, God is going to reward you regardless of what anybody else is saying. They can be sitting there talking shit, dragging your name through the dirt, and God will be blessing you like he didn't hear a single thing that they've been saying. Why? Because your guilt was rooted in the shame that they embedded on you for wanting to do something that was true to you and not to them. By you doing what was true to you and what you wanted, there was no guilt or shame surrounding that. Why? Because it came straight from God. Why would you be ashamed or guiltful about something that God is telling you to do? You only feel that way when somebody else outside of you is telling you not to do that thing. And then it's this balance or this fight between your ego and your spirit. Your ego wants to listen to the people who are here, right? The physical manifestations of God. But your higher self is just so tapped in where you're like, I don't need this. And it may look a little bit crazy, but you have to do what you have to do. So yes, you're probably going to feel guilty. That guilty it's been trained into us. It's been put onto us by society to make us do what they want us to do. But man, trust me, just separate yourself and put that energy into you. And God always sees it. God isn't a dummy. God isn't oblivious to anything. He sees everything so clearly. How can you actually tell the difference between somebody who's growing and someone who's just apologizing better? Man, if somebody who's actually growing is going to show it in all areas of their life. If somebody's coming up to you just apologizing about something that they did and they're just hyper fixated on one situation, and that person ain't sorry, and that person, chances are, didn't actually heal the things that they wanted to. When somebody's actually healing and growing from situations, there's this very clear saying how a man does one thing, he does everything. If some man is a liar and a cheater in one aspect of his life, he's a liar and a cheater in another aspect in his life. But if he's only coming up to you trying to, fix that puddle, apologize, whatever the case may be, but he's not over there apologizing and fixing the relationships with his family members, the business partners, his friends, his community, etc. That man's not sorry. He just has you have something that he wants. Vice versa. It could be a woman doing the same thing. These principles always apply, and they're never rooted to a gender. If when somebody's apologizing to gain something, that is a completely different spirit than somebody actually growing out of it, because there's no way in hell they can apologize to you about something, but then go to the next person and do the exact same thing and not feel bad and not feel sorry as well. If they feel sorry about one thing, they should feel sorry about the whole spectrum of it. If they haven't gotten to that point, they aren't necessarily healed yet, because a part of them still thinks what they're doing is okay. It shows in the subtleties and the patterns of everywhere in their life. All right, this person said, I know what I should be doing with my life, but I feel drained when I try to start. Is that laziness or misalignment? It could be a little bit of both, my guy. Now, yes, you can be lazy. There could be a part of you where you just need to get the hell up, right? You need to turn off the video game. You need to stop smoking so much weed. You need to do whatever the case may be. Because our generation is low-key lazy. I can admit that. Figure out your vices. But if you can firmly say that, I don't think it's my vices that's getting in the way. I don't think it's my habits that's getting in the way. There's an emotional blockage that's preventing you from getting there. Then, okay, ask yourself if you're doing the right things. That's where the misalignment question starts coming in. Because I notice every single time I'm doing something that's not aligned to me, every single time I'm doing something that's, a quote unquote low-hanging fruit, something that's not true to my my essence, I'm disappointed in myself. I'm discouraged. I have low self-esteem. I don't want to keep doing. I just feel like I literally don't even want to live anymore. The moment I say, you know what, even though this may be a little bit more difficult, this may take a little bit more time, this doesn't have no certainty or whatever the case may be, but I do what I truly want to do, my mental health skyrockets through the roof. And that shows me it's aligned. And the moment I start doing aligned actions with a healthy headspace, I always see the results. If I'm trying to force myself to do something that I don't want to do, I could probably see the results, but my mental health is going to be so much on a decline that I'm not going to be able to capitalize. You're not going to be able to grab the whole opportunity. Your misalignment can sometimes force you to be lazy because you're genuinely just not going to want to do certain things. And if you're misaligned and falling into depression because of misalignment, chances are you're going to embed the tendencies or the habits of a lazy person. You're going to start watching TV. You're going to start coping. You're going to start doing the things to silence those thoughts. Laziness can always somewhat be correlated back to your purpose and your passions almost. It's very hard to be lazy at something you're passionate about. If you're passionate about it, then you're gonna do it regardless of what's going on outside. You can lose all of your limbs. You're gonna figure out some way to do it. Just the truth. Geez, I hope my do-rag didn't mess up completely. But yeah, this question right here is actually so real, y'all. And it says, why do I shut down the moment I feel misunderstood? I can't tell if I'm protecting myself or avoiding intimacy. Oh my God. If you understood the amount of women I've blocked, the amount of situations I've just separated myself from, solely because I didn't know if I was on the verge of getting my heart broken again or having the love of my life. And sometimes you just have to learn to take that risk because you are always going to reap what you sow. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. If you're in a situation where things are getting heavy and there's something really on your chest, you feel a certain type of way, but you think that the other person's not going to interpret it the way that you want them to, you still need to say it. You want to know why? Because there's always a chance, there's always a possibility that they understand clearly what's going on. And there's no way that you're going to reach a resolution to a situation that you're neglecting or you're running away from. The only way you're going to find a solution to these type of problems is by sitting in it, is by saying it, is by having the tough conversation. But I also don't suggest you take that risk with any and everybody, right? I think you should be able to judge the people that you're in an interaction with. Does this person even show a little bit of quality or a little bit of concern or a little bit of care for what I may or what I have said in the past? If the person is somebody that you genuinely want to keep, that you're like, okay, this may be a little bit deeper than a surface level connection, there may actually be some love underneath this, there may be some intimacy underneath this, there may be a certain level of growth and compassion underneath this, then it would be in your best interest to say it even when it's uncomfortable. Because I'm telling you, I've been missed out on some amazing women solely because I didn't have the balls to say what I truly wanted to and start the conflict. But if I would have started the conflict, I would have still had the women. You want to know why? Because the conflict was never a problem. It was my lack of ability to say what I truly wanted to say. And that's what caused so much of the mental health issues. That's what caused so many of the problems. It was never the other person. So hey, you could be avoiding intimacy. It's always it's always like a real thing, especially when you've been bruised in the past and people hasn't, took acknowledgement to how you feel, whether it was your parents, your siblings, whatever the case may be. It's very normal to think that your emotions aren't important and you'll be better off just not saying it. But there will always be a level of relationships that you will never get to until you open up. All right, this one says, how do I stay grounded spiritually when life keeps hitting me back to back and I start questioning everything? When life starts hitting you back to back and you're questioning everything in your existence, you need to go back to ground zero. You need to embed a ground zero headspace, because there was a point in time where you didn't have anything, where you were fresh out, you were adolescent. The only things that you had was what you were gave. And fortunately, if you did grow up in somewhat of a lesser, tax bracket type of environment, you grew up in the hood, in other words, you knew what it was like to have to live life without these otherly worldly attachments. You were able to survive and find fun with seemingly little to nothing. In those moments, you have to realize how many things you've truly been through and how much you've been overcame. Once you can go back, okay, let me go back like, let's say 3-4 years ago when I didn't have any of this. I can remember some super duper hard adversities where I was like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna see the other side of this. I remember times where I was in the bathroom crying, damn near wanting to kill myself, because I'm like, bro, this business is going crazy. Like, I don't know what's going on. I feel like people are gatekeeping. There's envy, there's jealousy, all this other type of stuff, and it was running me into the dirt. But the moment that I was able to sit in it, for one, that's the key thing, sit in it long enough to see the patterns of what was happening, I was no longer fazed by that natural adversities of life. Man, I've been broke and then have gotten high figure checks the very next day. I've been fucking up one day and then dead broke the next day. I've been seeing so many ups and downs that I don't let those hits affects me, and I don't think that you should either. God is going to start hitting you back to back. Like, man, this last like 2 months or whatever the case may be, when I say I got in a car accident and got $1,000 ticket all within the same week, back to back to back. And I'm like, God, what are you trying to show me? God was trying to have me focus. God was trying to have me tee up because my attention wasn't where it needed to be at. Sometimes God hitting your head could be the best thing that you ever got. The next thing, the next person. Why do I always feel responsible for fixing people? Is it empathy or the lack of boundaries? Oh my God, I was just having this talk with my cousin last night, and I was telling him, you have to know who you are. He's a natural giver. Every single time he's around people, he's giving his last of his money out. He's giving literally things that he probably needs to other people, right? And a part of him, a part of this conversation was like, oh, we're people pleasing. Oh, people are taking advantage of us, and people are bad people, etc., because of how they're treating him. But then I brought the perspective to the equation of that's just who you are. If you're naturally a giver, it doesn't matter who you get around, you're going to give. And crazy enough, everybody sees that you're a giver. The malicious one knows that you're a giver just as equally as much as the good-hearted one knows that you're a giver. So you as the individual have to know yourself. I naturally give. I naturally extend myself. So I need to be more selective with the people that I allow around me, because simply by you being around me, I'm going to feel called to give to you. I think necessarily wanting to fix people and all this other type of stuff, it may not always be a bad thing, because it does show a level of empathy and care. You're able to see something that could be better, and you're actively wanting to encourage or spark that level of growth within that person. That is a-okay. That's fine and dandy. That is amazing. But your boundaries need to come in the selection process of who you're giving that to. Don't try changing yourself to be somebody that you're not. If you're naturally a giver, if you're naturally a problem solver, if you're naturally, you try to find the solutions and the growth behind situations, don't try changing yourself to mend with people who only take advantage of it. Just separate yourself from the ones who take advantage of it, and surround yourself with more people who can see the love and the genuineness that you hold within inside of you. That right there is going to cause a completely different ripple effect. It's going to cause a completely different chain reaction, because your self-esteem levels went up. When you think you're the problem and you try changing yourself, you're always going to start battling with some type of self-esteem. But the moment you can acknowledge this is just who I am, and I need to be more discerning with who I allow into this greatness, man, your self-esteem goes up. It's always about your perspective. The same situation with a different perspective is the make or break between depression and your best life. So yeah, it's been Jay, y'all. It's been Jay. It's all these planes and stuff. It's like throwing me off. It's kind of like messing with me a little bit. So I'm about to head out. I'm gonna knock out some more of the questions and Q&As and stuff like that at this next location, the next video. But with that being said, I love y'all. I love y'all. I love y'all. It's been Jay Sincere, and man, we getting better together. That's the goal today. That's the goal for the rest of our lives.